Hello again, and welcome back to another math video. And this worksheet is the last one in section 6.3, and it deals with the calculation of interest, basically, and monthly payment interest and how interest builds up over time, how much interest is due on a loan at any one time, the difference between accrued interest and interim interest. So basically here, what we're looking at is how do we take that monthly payment that we've talked about already and break it down into how much of that actual monthly payment is interest, not how much interest is paid over the whole life of a whole loan, but how much interest is paid just in that month. Sometimes how much interest is paid just for one day. And then, or for 5 days or 10 days. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again here. And we're going to take a look at that worksheet and talk about these questions. Now, when we look at these questions, we always start with our T-bar whenever we can. And this is calculate the annual interest paid on each of the following loans. And we always have a T-bar that we can use when we're calculating interest. And it looks like this. It says the annual interest is equal to the loan balance or the principal amount, means the same thing, times the interest rate. The pen's not cooperating right there. Does that sometimes. Anyway, so let's take a look at this question. It says, calculate the annual interest paid on each of the following loans. And they give us the loan balance, okay, $175,000. And they give us a 6% interest rate. Well, if they're side by side in the T-bar, that means we're going to want to multiply them. So we take the $175,000 times 6% annual interest. That is $10,500 in annual interest on that loan. So if we look at the second one here, they still want us to calculate the annual interest. And we know our T-bar is the same. So annual interest is going to be equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. Okay. So let's see what information they gave us. They gave us the loan balance, $215,000. And they gave us an interest rate of 4.25%. And since those things are side by side in the formula, we know we're going to multiply them. So $215,000 times 4.25%. Remember, once you hit the percent button, don't hit equals. And so that equals $9,137.50 in annual interest on that loan. All right, C, and they want the same thing here. They want to know annual interest. C gives us essentially the same question. So the annual interest. And yes, I know it takes a while to write this formula every time, but I promise you, if you are writing it out every time when you're doing these worksheets, you will know the formula. One of the most classic, things that people miss test questions about is they just don't know the formulas. They think they do. They tell themselves they do, but they're not writing it down when they're doing the math. They're just throwing numbers in a calculator. It's not going to work. Write it down. I mean it. Do it. Just writing it out will help you a lot with memorizing it. So you got 196,528 as the loan balance and 3.75. Doing that percent as the rate. And since they're side by side, we're going to multiply them. So 196,528 times 3.75%. That's going to equal $7,300 $369.80 per year in interest on that loan. So pretty easy. And then number two, really simple as well. It says for each of the three loans in question number one, calculate the monthly interest owed on each loan. And they just kind of repeated the ones. Well, we've already started the math here, so there's no need for me to repeat that math. I know in A, $175,000 at 6% interest. I know it is $10,500 annually. And they want to know monthly. So there are 12 months in the year, which means I need to divide that out by 12. That equals $614.15 monthly. And we can repeat that process for B. B, we know, is $9,137.50 annually. And we're going to divide that by 12 because there's 12 months in the year. 9137.50 divided by 12. And that equals $761 and about 45. You've got 45, 46.4583. You know, I always try to go 4 past the decimal, just so I don't have to worry about the rounding at all. Put a box around that one as well. And then finally, C. Well, C, we already did the math, was $7,369.80 annually, but they want monthly, so divide that by 12. Okay, so $7,369.80 divided by 12, that equals $614.15 monthly. $614.15 monthly. So pretty straightforward on those. Okay. So we want to make sure that you're all good on just something that's as simple as that, because if you can't do those, you're going to struggle as we move forward. All right, so let's take a look at number 3 here. Number 3 says calculate the annual interest owed on a new purchase loan made at 6% annual interest and 80% loan to value on a $450,000 purchase. So here's my question. Calculate the annual interest. So write down your formula. I know that the only formula that I have that has annual interest in it is this one. Annual interest is going to be equal to the loan amount or loan balance at any given time times the interest rate. So let's see what of these things they give me. Well, it looks like here they give me the 6% annual interest rate. So I can go ahead and fill that 6% in. But they don't give me the loan amount. The loan balance is just not there. So I'm going to have to come up with that. What they tell me is that I'm purchasing a property for $450,000 at 80% loan to value. In other words, I'm borrowing only 80% of that 450. So $450,000 times 80% loan to value, that's a $360,000 loan, which I'm going to bring right over here and insert into my formula. So now I've got a $360,000 loan amount times a 6% annual interest rate. And that's going to give me annual interest on that thing of $21,600 for annual interest. $21,600. 4 says calculate the monthly. Now I need to pay attention to that. Calculate the monthly interest owed on the loan in question number 3. Well, I've already done the heavy lifting here. I know that the annual interest is $21,600 annually. because I have to always get to annually before I can go to monthly. But I can immediately break annually down into monthly by dividing by the number of months in the year, which is divide by 12. So if I divide that 21,600 by 12, I end up with $1,800 monthly. $1,800 in monthly interest. So no matter what my monthly payment is on that loan, $1,800 of that is going toward interest with my next payment. That's a substantial amount. So look at this one. It says calculate the monthly interest expense. Well, I don't have a formula with monthly interest, but I do have a formula with interest. It just happens to be annual interest. But I'm smart enough to know that if I can get to annual interest, I can certainly break that down into monthly interest. So we know that the annual interest is equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. So let's see what they gave us. They gave us a $215,000 loan balance. They gave us a 5.25% annual interest rate. We've got two things filled in the T-bar. They're side by side. It's time to do some multiplication. So 215,000 times 5.25%. That equals $11,287.50 for annual interest. But that's not the answer they want. They want monthly. So I've got to divide that by 12 to break it all the way down to monthly. And that's going to be $940 and about 62 or 63 cents per month. Either answer is fine. 940 and 62 or 63 cents per month. Either one will work. All right, how about number 6 here? Number 6 says, what's the daily interest? Whoa, daily. What's the daily interest charge? Ooh, how am I going to do that? I mean, I only know how to get to annual interest. But here's the thing. Don't we know how many days there are in the year? If we know there's 360 days in the year, and there always are in our questions here, we can divide the annual interest by 360. So let's get to annual, and then we'll worry about daily. So annual interest is going to equal the loan balance times the interest rate. Loan balance times interest rate. So let's see what information they did give us here. Well, the first thing I see is the 5% rate. But I don't see a loan balance. What I do see in place of a loan balance is I see a $425,000 purchase where we're borrowing 80% loan to value. I can get my loan amount from there. So 425,000 times 80% loan to value, that's a $340,000 loan. So we're going to fill that in here, $340,000. Two things in the T-bar side by side, it's time to multiply. So when I multiply $340,000 times 5%, I end up with annual interest of $17,000. But they want to know daily. So anytime they want to know something less than annual, I know I need to divide because I need to break it down into smaller pieces. Daily is going to be a lot less than annual. So I need to be dividing so it gets a lot smaller. In this case, I'm going to divide by 360 because that's the number of days in the year. Now, some of you like to divide by 12 months and then divide by 30 days. It's the same thing. Whether you divide by 360 or whether you divide by 12 and then by 30, it doesn't matter. Just know that when you're dividing it down to daily, ultimately, you're eventually going to be dividing by either 12, then 30, or just dividing in one step by 360. So 17,000 divided by 360 days, that is per day, $47 and about 22 cents in interest per day on that loan. All right, number 7. Number 7, I'll give myself some extra room on these things here. It says Andrew's obtaining a 5.25% interest rate mortgage loan for his $165,000 purchase. He's borrowing the full purchase price. Well, that's easy then. Okay, so it's going to be $165 borrowed. His monthly PI payments on the loan are $911. Based on this payment, how much, there's the question, how much will be credited toward the principal balance of Andrew's loan on his first monthly payment? Oh, they want us to break down the payment. They want us to take that $911 and split it into 2 pieces. They want us to split it into principal, how much is going toward principal, and how much is going toward interest. And then they want to know this piece right here. They want to know how much is going toward principal of that 911. I don't have a formula to calculate how much is going toward principal, but I do have a formula to calculate how much is going toward interest. I have a formula that says the annual interest owed on that loan is equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. So what other information have they given me about this? Let's fill in what we've got. I see a 5.25% rate, and I see a $165,000 purchase where he's borrowing the full price, so he's borrowing $165,000. Those two things are side by side, so we're going to multiply them. Let me go ahead and do that. 165,000 times 5.25%. That looks like $8,662.50 in annual interest. Here's the thing though, that $911 payment, that's a monthly payment. And I've got annual interest. I can't compare monthly to annual. I've got to fix that. So that means I got to break this interest down into monthly, because I got to compare monthly to monthly. So I need to divide this by 12. And if I do that, if I divide this by 12, try to keep it where you can see it all at one time, then I'm going to end up with 86.62 divided by 12 months, 721 and about 87 or 88 cents, 0.875 cents monthly. Well, here's the great thing, folks. I can move that right over here. That interest is 721.875 for that payment. Now, I know how much the total payment is. I know how much the interest in that payment is. I can come up with the principal. I can take that total payment of $911 and I can subtract out the 721.875 that's going toward interest. And when I do that, I'm left with 189.125. And that's the amount that's going toward principal. That's the amount they asked me for. So what we're saying here is when Andrew makes that payment, even though the payment is $911, Andrew's only going to be paying off, as far as his loan balance goes, $189 and about 12 or 13 cents. That's it. That's all it's going to be paid off from that $911 because the rest of that was eaten up by interest. All right. Number 8 refers back to that same question. It says in question number 7 above, what's the outstanding principal balance of Andrew's loan after that first monthly payment? Okay. Well, let's talk about the balance of his loan before that payment. He borrowed $165,000. Okay. So since he borrowed $165,000, that's where we need to start when we're coming up with his balance. That's his starting balance. Right? Minus what he's paying off. Now he's not paying off $911. He's only paying off $189 and 12 or 13 cents. So what we're going to do is take a look at that and we're going to say, okay, minus just that amount, 189.125, because that's the amount being paid off. Looks to me like after that payment, Andrew is going to owe $164,810 and about 87 or 88 cents. Either number is perfectly acceptable. That's after that one first payment. Okay. All right. Number 9 is basically the same question, except number 9 says Travis purchased a home with a sales price of $175,000 and the 90% loan-to-value loan. What is the remaining principal balance of the 30-year fixed rate mortgage after 2 principal and interest payments? So what is the remaining balance after 2 payments have been made on the loan? So again, we've got a monthly payment here of $750, which we need to split up into interest and principal. Because we need to know how much of that payment is actually getting credited toward Travis, is actually getting credited toward his loan balance. So let's take a look at how much of that payment number 1. So I'm going to put this as payment number 1 that we're working on here. For payment number 1, we know that the annual interest is going to be equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. Okay, that's payment number 1. So it says Travis purchased a home in Garner with a sales price of $175,000 and a 90% loan-to-value loan. First thing I need to know here, and they do tell us it's at 4.5% interest. They do tell us that 4.5% interest here. Okay. But I need to know how much the loan is. So let me go over here to the side. That's $175,000 for the purchase price times 90% loan to value. That's a loan balance to start with, the amount borrowed of $157,500. So here's my loan balance, $157,500. Well, those are side by side, so I can multiply them. So times 4.5%. That's $7,087.50 annually. But remember that $750 payment is a monthly payment. So to keep that in perspective, I need to divide it by 12. Okay. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to divide this by 12. And that's going to equal $590.30 and about 63 cents. You can say 0.625 if you don't want to round. We'll just leave it unrounded. But if you did 62 cents, it's fine. If you did 63 cents, it's fine. In monthly interest, folks, that goes right here, right? So we know of that first $750 payment, $590.62 or 63 cents is going toward interest. So then change colors. Let's switch it up a little bit. Let's look at how much of that payment is going toward principal. If the total payment is $750, but $590.62 or 63 cents of it is being eaten up by interest, we got $159 and about 37 or 38 cents. Oops. 0.375, 37 or 38 cents that's going toward principal. So we'll bring that up over here, 159.375. See, here's what we've accomplished. We've blown that monthly payment into its two pieces. We've said, okay, this thing's two pieces. It's principal and it's interest. Here's the principal piece, here's the interest piece. Well, to get to know what Travis's balance is after he made that first payment, we got to go one more step. So Travis's balance after he made that payment is actually going to start with his original balance that he borrowed, $157,500, and that's the starting balance. Minus the $159.37 or 38 cents that's going toward principal in that first monthly payment. And that leaves us with a balance of $157,340 and about 62 or 63 cents. And that's after one payment. Unfortunately, the question asks us after two payments. So we got to repeat this whole process over again. Let me draw a line here. And we're going to do payment number 2. We're going to repeat the exact same process because we know we still have a monthly payment of, sorry about that. We still have a monthly payment of $750. My computer is not cooperating. There we go. We still have a monthly payment of $750. But we do not know in payment number 2 how much of that is going toward principal and how much of that is going toward interest. Let me talk to you about why we don't know that. It changes every month. Even though the payment itself stays the same, how much of it is allocated toward interest and how much of it is allocated toward principal is going to change. The reason for that is when you look at this formula over here, annual interest is always equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. The loan balance times the interest rate. But I'm going to highlight that word loan, that phrase loan balance there. Hasn't that changed? Isn't it different? Seems like to me it's different because it started at 157.5, but we know it's 157.340 now. So we're going to go back to the drawing board on this thing, and we're going to recalculate. I'm going to bring my loan balance down here of 157.340 and 62 or 63 cents times my interest rate, which will stay the same, of 4.5%. Okay, so we've got an interest rate of 4.5% here. And when I do the math on that, that equals $7,080 and about 32 or 33 cents annually. But I need to break that down into monthly by dividing it by 12. That's going to give me $590 and about 2 or 3 cents monthly for interest, which I'm going to take right there. So 590 and 0273, okay? Well, just like we've done previously, if we take a look at this thing, we can now figure out how much of that payment number 2 is going toward principal. We can simply take a look at, and I'll switch back over so I can keep my colors consistent here. We can now take a look at, okay, well, of that 750, we're losing 590.0273 in interest, which is slightly less than we were losing in month number 1. So that is, we type that, 750 minus 590.0273. That is $159 and about 97 cents, which is my principal for month number 2. So 159.9727 in month number 2. Still not quite at the answer they want to see, but I'm really, 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 really close. So I'm going to switch over here one more time, and I'm going to say, okay, for month number 2, we started with a balance of 157,340.625. And we paid off 159.9727. And that's going to leave us, try to make some room for myself here. May have to squeeze it in there. That leaves us a balance after the 2 payments of 157, 180, 157, 180, and about 65 cents. 157, 180, and about 65 cents. And I'll write that on the top of the next page, so it's a little bit more legible. And that's after 2 payments. That's after 2 payments are made. Very involved, complex question, but you can do it. Just make sure you work your way through it. So let me zoom down so you can take a look at all of it at one time. Try to anyway. There we go. So you do that process twice. It's not gonna, sorry about that. You do that process twice and you end up with the balance after 2 payments. Sorry for the zooming issues there. Okay, so let's take a look at number 10 here. It says Xenia's monthly PI payment on her home is $1,907. So the payment monthly for her principal and interest is $1,907. The loan is for an initial amount of $318,000 and is issued at a 6% annual interest rate. Based on this information, how much of Xenia's first monthly payment will be credited toward her principal balance? So again, very, very similar to what we've been doing in the last couple of questions. We know we have this monthly payment of $1907. We want to split it up into its two pieces of principal and interest, because they want to know essentially how much will be credited toward principal. So they want to know how much is right there of that 1907. So what we're going to do is first calculate how much annual interest is being paid on that loan during that month. We know that annual interest is going to be equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. So let's take a look at what information we have here. We've got a loan balance of $318,000. And we've got an interest rate of 6% annually. So if we multiply those two together, we come up with $19,080 in annual interest. But that's annual, $19,080 in annual interest. If we divide that by 12, we will get the monthly interest being paid on that loan just for that one payment, because remember, it's going to be different payment after payment, but for that one payment, the monthly interest is $1,590. So there, we're going to fill that in over here. $1,590 is the monthly interest. And remember, that's coming out of that 1907. So if we just do the math here of saying, okay, well, 1907 is our total payment minus the 1590 in interest, that gives us $317 in principal. $317 in principal, which is what they wanted to know. So there's our answer. 317 bucks of that payment is going toward principal in that one payment. Remember, the next payment would be a little bit different. The next payment would be a little bit less interest owed, because they would only be paying interest on a lesser loan balance. And because there would be a little bit less interest paid, and because the payment would remain the same at 1907, be a little bit more paid toward the principal. But this would be how the first payment would break down. So number 11, what would be the remaining balance? There's our question. What's the remaining balance after the first payment on an initial loan balance of $325,000 at 4.25% interest if the PI payment is $1,247 monthly? So again, we've got that $1,247 monthly, and we're going to split that into two pieces, principal and interest. Okay. And so we're going to take a look here at calculating our annual interest so that we can figure out how much of that payment is going monthly toward interest. We've got to first calculate annual interest, and that's our loan balance times the interest rate. All right, so what information do we have here? Let's take a look. We've got a 4.25% annual interest rate. It's right there. And it says an initial loan balance of $325,000. So there's our loan balance is $325,000. And they're side by side, so that means multiply. Okay, $325,000 times 4.25%. That's annual interest of $13,812.50. Remember though, that's annual interest. So what we want to do is we want to take a look at, okay, $13,812.50 annually divided by 12, so we can break it down to monthly, is going to give us $1,100 $151 and about 4 cents, 0.0416 in monthly interest. Remember, that's interest. So that goes right up over here, 1,151.0416. Well, once we know that, it's pretty easy to come up with our principal, because we're just going to take the total payment of $1,247 and we're going to subtract the $1,151 that's coming out as interest. And that leaves us with a whopping $95 and about 96 cents, 9583 cents that's going toward principal. 95 bucks. That's it. $95 and about 95 or 96 cents. Not much. Not much on that one at all. Okay. Number 12, Ariana is purchasing a home for $418,000 and obtaining a 90% loan to value fixed rate 30-year mortgage with an annual interest rate of 5%. She's decided to purchase 2 discount points to lower her rate over the life of the loan. What will she be charged? There's our question word, right? So what, oops, sorry, I'm going to highlight that. What will she be charged on the closing settlement statement for the discount points? So they want to know the charge for the discount points. Here's what we know about discount points. Each discount point purchased costs 1% of the loan. That's always true with discount points. They're always going to cost 1% of the loan. Remember, the idea of discount points is it's a prepaid fee that's designed to put cash in the bank's hand up front in exchange for them giving a lower interest rate to the borrower over the full life of the loan. So this borrower is going to get a lower interest rate for 30 years and therefore lower monthly payments for 30 years. But they got to pay some money up front to get that. And that's what they're asking us. How much is paid up front? So let's take a look at this. First of all, I need to know a loan amount. They did not give me a loan amount. What they gave me was a purchase price and a loan to value ratio. So from there, I can calculate my loan amount, $418,000 times 90% loan to value. And why do I need to know that this loan is for $376,200? Because, just as a reminder, they cost 1% of the loan, not 1% of the purchase price, 1% of the amount that's borrowed. So it's a little bit different story. So now what is our math going to look like? Well, we're buying 2 discount points. So if each point costs 1%, that means 2 points is going to cost 2% of the loan. So here's my loan amount, $376,200 times 2%. Looks like $7,524 to me for those discount points. Okay, number 13 says Leslie wishes to purchase property in Clayton and is obtaining a $215,000 5-year interest-only loan. Interest-only loan. I just thought I'd highlight that for you. That means that she's never paying down this $215,000 balance. Every payment that she makes over that 5 years, the loan balance is going to stay locked at $215,000 because she's only paying off the interest. What it also means is at the end of 5 years, she's going to have to come up with $215,000 as one lump sum payment because she still owes it all. So that's a term loan or interest-only loan. The market interest rates offered by the lender are at 5%, but Leslie wishes to buy the rate down to 4.25%. So I know it's probably going to be a discount point question because it's talking about buying the rate down. Requiring her to purchase 6 discount points. What, there's my question word, is the total charge to Leslie on the closing statement for this discount points fee? So this is essentially the same question we did just now in number 12. So we know that 1 point costs 1% of the loan. Now here, they talk about the fact that we're purchasing 6 discount points. So 6 points is going to cost 6% of the loan. We know that right now. So let's talk about this. How much is the loan? Well, the loan is $215,000 times 6% for the fee for the discount points. That is $12,900 that Leslie would have to pay out of pocket to the lender on day one. Upfront fee for those discount points. Number 14, what? Well, there's our question word right out of the gate. What is the total charge for discount points? Okay. On a closing where the buyer is obtaining a $275,000 mortgage loan and buying the rate down from 5.25% to 5%, requiring the purchase of 2 discount points. Well, I know again, each point costs 1% of the loan. And if we're buying 2 discount points right there, so 2 points equals 2% of the loan. So let's see if they gave us a loan amount. Obtaining a $275,000 mortgage. So it looks like to me the math's going to be real easy on this one. $275,000 loan amount. Oops, too many zeros. Times 2%, because we're buying 2 discount points. Looks like $5,500 to me for those discount points. And again, paid up front. All right. Number 15, calculate the accrued interest. Okay, so let's talk about this terminology here. Accrued equals built up in the past. And since the first of the month. It's always since the first of the month, because loans are always paid monthly. So you never have interest built up from the previous month. It's only this month's interest that has built up. So calculate the accrued interest on a $250,000 mortgage loan at 6.5% interest as of June 18th. Look at that right there, as of June 18th. So here's what I know. I'm going to have 18 days of accrued interest, because it's been 18 days since the first of the month. I don't have a formula that allows me to calculate days of interest, but I do have a formula that allows me to calculate annual interest. And annual interest equals the loan balance times the interest rate. So let's take a look at those. What do we have here? $250,000 mortgage loan. That looks like my balance to me. $250,000 mortgage loan at 6.5% annual interest. That looks like $16,250 in annual interest. But we don't need annual interest. We don't even need monthly interest. We need 18 days of interest. We need 18 days of accrued interest. So what we need to do first is get this broken down into a daily rate. We need to be at days here. So we're going to take that annual number, 16,250, and break it down or divide it into daily by dividing by 360, because that's the number of days in the year. And if we do that, we come up with $45 and about 14 cents a day, 0.1388 daily. So bring that number down here, 45 0.1388 daily times 18 days and accrued interest to me looks like $812 and about 50 cents. It's 0.4999999, so 50 cents. 812 and about 50 cents for accrued interest. Number 16 is essentially the same question with one twist. It says calculate the payoff amount. So payoff amount. A payoff amount. So this is somebody paying off their loan. The payoff equals the loan balance plus accrued interest. It's a loan balance plus the accrued interest. So number 16 says calculate the payoff amount due to satisfy the mortgage completely in question 15 as of June 18th. Well, we've already done all the heavy lifting needed to answer this question. We know that the loan balance in number 15 is $250,000. They told us that. So our payoff starts at $250,000. We also just calculated that 18 days of interest is $812.50. So as of the 18th, we owe plus $812.50 in interest. So the payoff for that loan is $250,812.50. Now, one thing I like to point out here on this kind of question, when we talk about payoffs, you know, like how much money somebody's got to bring to closing to pay that thing off, if it closed a day later, that number would go up, and it would go up. We can tell how much it would go up because we know it's $45 a day. And so this number would go up by $45 if we closed a day later. And if we closed a day earlier, it would go down by $45. So that's, you know, payoffs are pretty easy to calculate because it's just whatever the balance of the loan was as of the beginning of that month, plus the interest that is built up day by day, or the accrued interest that's built up day by day since the beginning of the month. All right, number 17 says calculate the payoff of a mortgage loan. So there's that thing again, calculate the payoff. So let me write this down for myself. Payoff is going to equal the loan balance plus accrued interest. And we know that accrued interest is from the first of the month. So accrued interest from first of month. Okay. So if I wanted to go ahead and start my payoff math over here, I could write it down like this. I know my payoff is going to start at $318,650. And I know I'm going to be adding some accrued interest, but I don't know how much accrued interest I'm going to be adding yet. Here's what I do know. If I want to take a harder look at this, here's what I do know. I know we're closing or paying it off on the 20th of September. So I know that's going to be 20 days that have accrued. So now I need to take a look at that formula for calculating annual interest again. Even though I don't really care about the annual interest, I need it to get down to daily interest. So annual interest is going to be equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. Okay, loan balance times interest rate, and that's going to help us calculate our annual interest. So what information did they give us here? They gave us a loan balance of $318,650, and they gave us an interest rate of 4.75%. Those are side by side, so we know we're going to multiply them. $318,650 times 4.75%. And that gives me annual interest of $15,135 and about 88 cents, 875. annually. Well, since I know I need 20 days, I need to divide this and break it down to daily. And so that's going to be divided by 360. When I divide by 360, that equals 4204 or so daily times 20 days. That's going to give me accrued interest of $840 and about 88 cents, 8819. Now I can bring that accrued interest over here to my payoff calculation. So plus 840.8819. And what do we come up with? Looks like $319,490 to me. $319,490 and about 88 cents for a payoff. $319,490.88 because we added 20 days worth of accrued interest. Number 18 asks about the opposite side of the month. It says calculate the interim interest. I need to make a note for myself here about interim interest. I need to give myself a little more room to work with on these questions. What's that? All right. So let's make a note for myself, first of all, of what interim interest is. Interim interest equals future interest on buyer's new loan and for the rest of the month. So accrued interest goes back to the beginning of the month. Interim interest goes forward to the end of the month. Accrued interest would be paid by the seller in the transaction on their loan to pay it off. Interim interest would be paid by a buyer on their loan, which is completely separate than the seller's loan. Interim interest and accrued interest don't have anything to do with each other because the buyer and seller have different loans in most cases, unless there's an assumption, and you'll never get a math question about an assumption. So what we're looking at here is always going to be interest for the remainder of the month. So in A here, it says closings on May 12th. So that means interim interest is going to be from May 12th, because we need to start on the day of closing and go through May 30th, because every month has 30 days. Now, I will tell you, here's where you're likely to make a mistake with interim interest. You got to really be careful with counting days when it comes to interim interest. You're going to take that 30 and you're going to subtract 12, and that's 18, but that's not your answer. You got to do a +1 for the day of closing. You have to do a +1 for the day of closing. Otherwise, you will end up not counting the day of closing and you'll always be a day short. So that's actually 19 days here. 19 days. So just do 30 minus the day of closing and then +1 for the day of closing. Okay. So you got 19 days of interest here. So let's take a look at what our annual interest looks like so that we can get down to daily interest. So annual interest is going to equal the loan balance times the interest rate. Okay. Let's fill in some information here. What did they tell us here? They told us that the loan balance on this one is $172,000. And they told us that the interest rate is 5.5%. They're side by side, so we're going to multiply them. So 172,000 times 5.5%. That is $9,460 in annual interest. We need daily because we got to do 19 days. So we're going to break that down to daily by dividing by 360. Okay, so we divide that by 360. We get $26 and about 28 cents, 2777 daily, times 19 days. And that gives us a total of $4.99 and about 27 or 28 cents. $4.99 and about 27 or 28 cents for interim interest on that loan. All right. They want us to do interim interest again on the next one, B. And this one says it's closing on February 3rd. Let me give myself a little working room here. There we go. Not so cramped. So it says this one's closing on February 3rd. So I know my interim interest is always going to start on my closing date. And it's always for interim interest going to go to the end of that month, which is February 30th, because they all have 30 days. So to do my number of days, I'm going to say 30 minus 3 equals 27 plus 1 for the day of closing. That's 28 days. Now, you don't do that with accrued interest, that plus 1 thing. But for interim interest, you got to do the plus 1 for the day of closing. So you got 28 days of interim interest that we're going to be dealing with here. I'm going to put my box around there because it makes it look like a final answer. Okay, 28 days worth. Now, let's talk about what we know here. We know we can calculate annual interest as long as we have the loan balance and as long as we have the interest rate. Well, we've got a loan balance of $286.5. We got an interest rate of 4.25%. We know those are multiplied because they're side by side. So 286,500 times 4.25%. That gives us $12,176.25 annually, which we're going to divide by 360 to break down to daily because we need 28 days worth. If we had needed something months, we would divide by 12. That comes out to $33 and about 82 cents a day, 8229 daily. Well, to finish up our math, we're just going to multiply that times 28 days. And that equals 947.0416. So 947 and about 4 cents would be your interim interest on that one. All right. Number 19 says, what's the payoff balance? So there's a question right there. What is the payoff balance? Okay. Go ahead and give myself plenty of room to work here. There we go. What's the payoff balance of a mortgage loan as of October 17th if the interest accrues in arrears and the last mortgage payment was made on October 1? That's all fluff information, folks. We know the interest accrues in arrears. It always does. We also know that the last payment was made on the first of the month because payments are always made on the first of the month. If the balance after that payment was $234,505 and the note is issued at 3.75% annual interest. So we know this is going to be from October 1 because its payoff is the loan balance plus accrued interest. That's what we're going to be dealing with here. So we know the accrued interest is going to start on October 1 and it's going to go through October 17th. So that's 17 days. Remember, you don't need to do the +1 when you're doing accrued, just with interim. So 17 days. Well, let's take a look at our annual interest on this thing. So annual interest is going to be equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. And they have told us that the balance is $234,505, and they've told us the interest rate is 3.75%. They're side by side, so we're going to multiply them. 234,505 times 3.75%. That equals 8,730 or 93, sorry, not 39, 93. $8,793.93 or 94 cents, which is annual. And we want to divide that by 360 because we want a 17 days worth. And that gives us 24.4276 daily times 17 days. That equals $415 and about 26 or 27 cents for the accrued interest. But they want to know the payoff. So if we go back and remind ourselves, our payoff starts with my loan balance. The first number I have to pay off is my loan balance. So I'm going to start here. Let me change to a different color just to differentiate it. I'm going to start here with my loan balance of $234,505. And I'm going to add the interest that has accrued of $415.2692. I've got a payoff, total payoff as of that date of $234,920 and about 27 cents, 2692. So about 27 cents. $234,920 and about 27 cents to pay that loan off. Number 20 says, how much is the interim interest owed? Okay, so let's write down what interim interest is. Interim interest is going to be past interest since, excuse me, my brain's not functioning today. Future interest, interim, future interest until the end of the month. So we're starting on the day of closing, which is going to be September 12th through September 30th. Our math for that's going to look like 30 minus 12, which is 18, plus 1 for the day of closing, 19 days. Remember, with that interim interest, whenever you're doing the future, you got to make sure that you do the plus 1. So let's go ahead and calculate what our annual interest is on this thing. Annual interest equal to the loan balance times the interest rate. Okay. And we know that the interest rate is 6.25%. They give us that. Here's what they don't give us. They don't give us the loan balance. They tell us that we're purchasing a $300,000 home And we're borrowing 80% of that, 80% loan to value. So if we do the math on that, that's $240,000 for a loan amount. So that goes over here, $240,000. That's how we're going to calculate our interest for the year. So they're side by side, so we multiply them, 6.25%. That is $15,000 in annual interest. Well, we want daily interest. So we're going to take that $15,000 and we're going to divide it down, bust it down to daily by dividing by 360. And that's 41 and about 67 a day times 19 days. So our total interim interest there, folks, is going to be, sorry, I'm not sure where that came from. Our total interim interest there is going to be $791 and about 67 cents. And that is the end of the worksheet. So hopefully you feel much better now about calculating interest, all the different types of interest, whether it be annual interest or monthly interest or daily interest, and then taking the daily interest and converting that into accrued interest, which is interest that's built up in the past, or taking that daily interest and converting it to interim interest, which is interest for the future on the buyer's new loan. Always go back, practice with your math. Good luck.